It's recording. Here we go.
Nice. All right, 9:03. Good morning, everyone. I'm Dr. Whitney Griffin, and like Darcy said, my specialty for teaching yoga is bringing yoga and meditation to the traumatic brain injury community. And so that's how I got my start into yoga, and now I'm excited to expand that into the burnout prone community. So at first I started working with the people who needed the caregiving, and now it seems like I'm helping the caregivers themselves in a way. And so this is really exciting to be in my home, but to meet all of you and to get you all to take a journey this morning into a very sacred place that you bring with you everywhere you go, and that is into your heart. And this is going to be a dedication to Leo season. I'm a Leo. My birthday was last month, so you're all gonna have to suffer through Leo season with me. That's right, Melissa. So this session, we journey inward into our core essence to find out who we are, who we want to be, and how we can lead ourselves forward. We are all of us leaders. And this awakening requires an open heart, a willingness to have challenging, honest conversations with your soul, and like the Leo, courage to live from an authentic place in every situation life hands you. So, like the Leo, let us head into some cat-cow spine. So I'm going to scoot back so that you can get a better view of me. And I'm going to face sideways so you can see my back. And I want you all to face the computer with your feet flat on the floor. And you might need to scoot forward a little bit until your knees stack directly over your ankles. Yeah, all right. So knees stacked over ankles. Shoulders are probably a little slouched and slumped, so bring those forward, stacking over your hips. So you have a nice aligned set of bones. Knee joints over ankle joints, shoulders over hips, hands on thighs. And as you inhale, imagine the top of your head reaching up to the sky, like you're stretching out an accordion. Big breath in. Exhale, shoulders soften down away from the ears. Let's do that movement again, breathing into our spine. Before we move it, inhale through the nose. Crown of the head extends towards the sky, feeling space in between each spine vertebra. Exhale through the nose, shoulders soften, jaw softens, eyebrows unfurrow. Very good. Let's bring some movement. Inhale, cow pose, gaze up, chin up, push your heart forward and arch your back to the sky. Big breath in, maybe gaze up, opening your throat. Exhale, cat pose. Tuck your chin to your chest, push your thighs away and round your upper back like you're a scaredy cat on Halloween. You may need to adjust and scoot your body a little bit more forward like I do. All right, that's why we're here. Breathing and moving. Inhale, drink in air, gaze up, chin up. Tuck your elbows in tight to your body and feel your heart expand and open forward. What gets open must get closed. Exhale, cat pose. Curl and tuck your chin, round and dome your upper back. Feel your shoulder blades pull apart from each other, closing off the heart space. What goes up must come down. What gets opened must get closed. Breath to movement, here we flow. Inhale, cow pose. Only those two movements, those two breaths. Exhale, cat pose. Two more. Inhale, cow pose. Can you involve your chin as you involve your hips? Exhale, cat pose, round and close off. Belly button pulls into spine. One more on your own. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Very good. Inhale, neutral spine. Find your neutral long spine. And after cat-cow, because after all, lions are just big cats, next we head into lion's breath. This will require, again, a straight spine, so you're already set up. The goal of lion's breath is to open up our vocal cords and to prepare ourselves to roar with self-expression. The goal is to touch the tip of your tongue to the tip of your chin. Now, it won't happen, but that's what it's going to look like. So I'll demonstrate. I'll take a big inhale, and when I breathe out, I'll do this. Okay, we're all on mute, so it can be weird. It's okay. All right, hands on your thighs, nice long spine. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, lion's breath. All right, 2 more. Inhale through the nose, this time bigger. You know where we're going. Exhale, lion's breath. Good. 1 more time. Inhale through the nose. Authentic self-expression. Make the noise.
Yeah.
Yes. Good. Close your eyes. Close your mouth. Inhale through the nose. Easy exhale through the mouth. Leo season asks us to expand our hearts, inspire our compassion, and find our joy. As you begin to close your eyes, bring your awareness to your heart space, the center of your chest. Place your hand over your heart and feel the rise and fall of your breath, expanding your ribcage around your heart. You may even feel the beating of your heart. And for the next minute, focus solely on your heart. Allow this focus to calm and clear your mind as you concentrate on the physical sensations of your heart. As you begin to feel the space around your heart, you may experience it as light, empty space, or as an extension of the movement of your heart. Breathe into this space, feeling it expand in 3 dimensions. Feel the front, the sides, and the back of your heart. Rather than forcing it to expand in any area, gently allow your heart space to open with your breath. While you're focusing on your heart and breathing space into it, listen to it. You may rest your hand back down. Keep it on your heart if that feels comforting and compassionate to you. If you experience tension at any point near your heart or anywhere else in your body, tell yourself it's okay to feel. As an authentic leader, give your heart permission to express itself and hold space for yourself to feel. You may be experiencing varying emotions, dreams, memories, or physical sensations like tingling or heat. Know that these are all your heart beginning to open and reveal itself to you. Stay focused on your heart space and give it time to unravel. And for the next 5 rounds of breath, can you sit with yourself without judgment? There are no right or wrong messages of the heart. There is only the truth. Four more breaths as you feel your inner courage and explore the sensations and power of your heart. Three more breaths to experience the layers of your heart, connecting with your essence, the space of love and gratitude. And last full heartfelt breath together. Inhale through the nose, feel the heart and lungs expand. And gentle exhale through the mouth. With your feet grounded, feeling the points where your body makes contact with the chair, the earth beneath you. Connect both hands in front of your heart space and allow your eyes to stay closed. Thank you for allowing yourself the time and the space to find the courage and the compassion required of each of the leaders present here today. Bring your hands to your third eye center, your seat of intuition. Thank you for allowing yourself the time and the space to find the courage to connect with others. And bring your hands hovering above you, acknowledging the space where we are all connected. The simple meaning of namaste is that the light, the teacher, and the student in me always finds the courage to be compassionate towards the light, the teacher, and the student in each and every one of you. Bow forward to seal in our practice for the day with an audible namaste. Namaste. Thank you so much, yogis.
No one is available.
If there are any introverts in the house, before you go into your next meeting, lion's breath is your best friend. It physically loosens up stagnant vocal cords and things here. Yeah. Or if you are an extrovert and you need to find a way to be more compassionate as you roar, lion's breath is your best friend. Thank you so much, yogis. Thank you, Darcy, for bringing me in. I hope you have a compassionate and heart-filled rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Whitney. Really appreciate
Bye, everyone. Thank you, Leo Power. See you next month. Have a great meeting, everyone. Bye now.
Bye. It's so important that we just take a moment in, this is a very interfaith environment here, and to just center ourselves, to, just turn all that busyness off for just a moment and find that peace and prepare our hearts. So it's that self-care is so important. So I thank you so much for all of that. Anyway, so we are going to get started. I want to introduce you to Amie Quigley. And Amie is the Director of Community Outreach at First Presbyterian Church of Hollywood. She oversees several programs for people experiencing homelessness, including the Lord's Lighthouse, the Hollywood Healthcare Partnership, and the Hollywood Refuge Shelter. These programs collaborate with numerous service providers such as LA County Department of Mental Health and hosts guests with grave disabilities. Amie is the chair of the Homeless Task Force for the of the Pacific. She also serves on the board of the Faith-Based Advocacy Council for the LA County Department of Mental Health and Step Up on Second. She has a BA from Duke University, MDiv Fuller Theological Seminary, and is a candidate for ordination in the PCUSA. So I just am thrilled that you are here, and that, we had, in coming into this, we had so many requests from faith-based organizations of just not knowing how to deal with the situation that they were facing with increased homelessness on their properties, and coming into services and, all of those things. Many people do not want to just call 911. They want to be trained. And so we're offering very basic training and starting that training with basic de-escalation. And so, Amie, I'm going to turn it over to you, and thank you so much for being here. You are incredible.
Thank you so much, Darcy. And as I was saying earlier to Darcy, for those of us in Hollywood, we think the West Side Coalition is just the ideal coalition. You all have done such an amazing job kind of pulling your community together. And so I'm a big fan, and it's a delight to be here. And I know some of you, but for those of you I don't know, I just thank you so much. You all are incredible. I admire your compassion and your passion to find strategic and caring ways to help our friends around us who are experiencing homelessness, our neighbors, people at our door, in our streets. You are a group who wants to do this well, and I'm so grateful. So I'll just quickly say, Lord, I just pray for your Holy Spirit to be here, for your wisdom, for your love and your guidance to cover all that we talk about, so that we might serve you and serve others with compassion and with effective methods. So God, we give you this time in your holy name, we pray. So as Darcy said, I'm on staff at Hollywood Presbyterian Church, and you heard a little bit about our ministries. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that so you get the context in which I've been working and how I've learned and seen effective methods, how I've struggled myself. And kind of that's the context from which I'm sharing these insights. And I also want to encourage you that this is a conversation. So please chime in on the chat with your questions. We want to do this together. Hang on, I have to just deal with one thing. Hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. So as Darcy said, the Lord's Lighthouse has been a ministry at Hollywood Press for 30 years. Just a group who saw people in need and started a lunch program with Bible study and nurses and clothing. And then the Department of Mental Health came along and said, well, that's the group we're trying to reach. Could you do a midweek program where we could bring services to one location? So that started the whole idea of the model that we have now, where we provide services in one place. We don't want people trying to get to 5 appointments during the day. If we can not only bring services, but also create a sense of belonging. Sociologists have studied that sense of belonging is one of the most critical components in the healing process. So creating space where people gather together in a relaxed environment to have friendships and to connect with services has really been a beneficial way to engage. So we did that, and Department of Mental Health was there, and Step Up, and Housing Works, and PATH, and we have open mic. So our friends perform, which is really fun. And we do classes. And eventually LASA approached us and said, well, if you're doing all that, why don't you run a shelter? Which seemed really overwhelming. But long story kind of short, we ended up pulling the churches together and combining our resources, our space, and we created a winter shelter. And we didn't go with the LASA program. We realized we knew we wanted to care for the people who were dying in the street. That was the group we saw, and we thought, well, gosh, they're not even making it into shelters. They're just languishing on the streets. They have too many symptoms. Let's just focus on them. So that's the focus for the refuge shelter. And DMH is a big part of that, especially as we care for a lot of their home clients. These are folks who are pretty symptomatic and with mental health and physical health issues. They might go into a conservatorship, or they may be in a step down facility and be able to do permanent supportive housing. So that's a little bit of the group that we focus on. And we also partner with mostly LAPD and other groups who are trying to maybe get people back home. So we have a ministry that provides assistance, like a bus ticket, where we actually talk to someone in Alabama. We make sure that this person has a place to go. But oftentimes, you know this, friends come out here, they have dreams and their things get stolen, and then they're just ready to go home. And LASA actually considers when you place someone, even if it's housing in Alabama, we've actually kind of housed someone. So we provide that for about like 45 individuals every year. And it's just very helpful to connect with the family. They know where their loved one is. So that's kind of the dynamic, the setting that I'm coming from. But like you, we are all in this situation where we have beautiful, amazing friends around us who are symptomatic, who are struggling, who are in our sanctuary, who are at the front door, who are at the corner. And what are we to do about it? And how do we do it safely, thoughtfully, and effectively, essentially? You have a little handout sheet. I think it might be in the chat. That's just for you to look at later. You don't have to study that right now, but those are just some topics we're going to cover today, which number one is how you're going to assemble the engagement team in your faith community, how you assess situations and decide what measures are needed, and or most importantly, how we de-escalate, how we engage with people effectively to sort of bring calm to them and to ourselves, and how we partner with services. I'm going to go over when the 911 call is needed, when it isn't. And then finally, just some best practices and ministries that we've learned are ways that you build up your support system, right? So you're not doing it alone. So those are just some of our topics. So
Amie, can I interrupt for 1 second?
yes.
I had forgotten to put that in there. That document is in the chat right now. You can download it at any time. And I also forgot to mention that if you have any questions, we are opting to just, if you write that question in the chat, we're just gonna interrupt right then and have this conversation. So this is more of a conversation. Feel free that if you've got a question, we've got people that are going to be looking for those questions and then interjecting them into the conversation. So feel free to do that. And the document is there. Sorry to interrupt.
Please interrupt. It's all about interrupting. Okay, so to begin with, it's important to identify leaders or staff people at your location who are your designated kind of first responders. So that looks different on the weekend, during the weekday. I'm sure you're already kind of thinking, yes, on the weekend, we have pastors or the rabbi, we have deacons, we have congregants. But on the weekday, it's just someone at the front desk and maybe one staff person. So weekend and weekday is going to look a little bit different. But the important thing is that you build a team. This is a group of people who are willing to engage with our friends. They're willing to engage. And these are the people who need a lot of care. I will tell you, for instance, for us at First Presbyterian Church of Hollywood, it's our custodians. They are often the first responders. They're there at 6 a.m. They're there when the incident maybe first happens or we notice someone in need, and they need tremendous amount of support and care. And the message we want to send to them is, you're not doing this alone. And and to keep checking in with them. How did it go today? What do you think you need today? When can I come alongside you? I'm right here. Here's my cell phone. So whoever your team is, you'll know that they're going to need a lot of love and support, because not only is the work difficult to do, but as we've discussed, like it's hard on us. It's stressful, it's taxing. It brings on anxiety, just knowing you're going to have to possibly deal with someone who is quite animated, disruptive, or even violent. That's difficult. So we want to put the team together and really make them feel like we are a team. Again, weekend and weekday looks a little bit different, but number one, like safety first, safety first. Whenever you're in a situation, you're going to be with a teammate. We often stress you want to be in pairs. That's usually very, very helpful. And you want to have your plan in place for this situation. Who's doing what? Okay, the rabbi is going to be the one to have the heart to heart and talk with people and pray. Okay, my front office person is the one who's going to make the decision whether it's a 911 call. So you want to put that team together and decide who's going to do what. Now, important, assessing the situation. You can chime in about what situations you deal with, but oftentimes we kind of have the spectrum of maybe someone who's at the front door who just needs to talk to someone and, needs a resource guide. That's very important for any organization, that you should have handy a resource guide. I'm sure you all have that at the Westside Coalition, that you have the go, here's a shower, here's where you can get a meal. That's often very helpful to have. So maybe someone's at the door, it's a quick kind of, here's where you can go to get a shower, or here's a snack. But then we move into maybe someone's very disruptive. They are screaming outside the door and you're trying to conduct a meeting. Then you also have people who are in an inconvenient location, like they're blocking the door. They've got all of their stuff and their garbage and they're screaming and they're at your front door. Or our favorite too is in the middle of your worship service on Saturday or Sunday, and someone comes in half naked, screaming with a vodka bottle and like swinging a weapon. And you're like,
Hi, Irma, it's Dick. Can I call you back a little later?
So
Thank you. Bye.
we have the spectrum of incidents that we're going to deal with. And I want to kind of break down kind of how we respond. So we've talked about working in pairs, who's going to do what. But now I want to talk about really the crux of this. And this is what I've learned in all of those situations. Someone's just at the front door, to someone screaming with a weapon, to everything in between. What I can impart to you that I have learned, and this is a very kind of can be a challenging skill to learn. It's going to take practice. But regardless of the situation, when you or your team engages with the person, you want it to be a positive experience. What does that look like? Am I right in saying that our instinct sometimes is going to say, sir, you can't be there right now, right? That's sometimes because we're animated, we're nervous, and we speak in a certain tone. It never works well. What works well is to pretend, again, regardless of what's going on, that this is your best friend that you haven't seen in a long time. So you're going to be very bright, a good smile, and you're going to look at them and say, hi, I'm so glad you're here. I'm so happy to see you. Even if half naked, whatever's going on, I'm so excited. I'm so happy you're here. Hi, how are you? Why? It calms them down. I'll tell you every single time, it will calm them down, because we don't know what's triggering for them. But if you look at them like with delight, they're going to calm down. Then you're going to move into something positive to say to them, like, oh my goodness, the Lakers I'm a fan too. You're a Lakers fan? I'm a Lakers fan. Oh my goodness. Or, oh, that's such a pretty necklace that you have on. Maybe like a compliment. This again, you're increasing the trust with this person. Hey, do you need some new socks? Do you want a pair of socks? Do you need a snack? And when you feel like the time is right, but not too quickly, introduce yourself, because again, you're making the setting feel like we are having a friend reunion right now. And this is a great, happy moment. So you don't want to be too formal, right? Like, hi, what's your name? So we want to avoid that tone of voice. Very warm, very nurturing. Even when people start to talk in different voices, like, well, now I'm Joanna. Okay, hi, Joanna. Again, it calms them down. And then we can, I'm Amy, see if they want to give a name, they may not. And then we can gently redirect them. That's the place after some time where you've gotten this, you can see them. They're going to smile back. They're going to be happy that someone's having a positive response. And then you can say, like, Cindy, I'm so happy to see you, and I hope that you'll come and have lunch a little bit later. Could I ask you, would it be okay if we moved your items? And like, Jose is going to help us. We're going to move your items over here because we're actually blocking the doorway. Would that be okay? Would that be okay for Jose to help? And we're going to move your things over. So that in essence is what has worked most often for someone who is willing to engage. And I want to kind of really get your questions on that, but I'll pause, and I want to also just point out that we need to really carefully think about when we make the 911 call. Because sometimes you're going to see someone, no clothes or screaming, or their garbage is everywhere, and you just think it's 911 call. If you have a good team and you're able to do some of the things that I'm describing to you, I will tell you why this approach can be most effective. Number one, I want to say because it's caring and it's kind, and that's true, but I'll just be honest in telling you, you're going to problem solve really quickly. If you are combative, if you use a tone of voice and then you're just on the 911 call, it's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long, drawn out day. And if you use the other approach, you're probably going to problem solve really quickly. And honestly, that's what you want in that situation. You've got hundreds of people showing up to worship or be a part of a gathering, and now you've got this incident and this issue, and it's going to take up all your time. But to be effective and do it quickly, you might want to practice those things. Now, 911, when you see someone who is violent and potentially danger to yourself or others, that is a 911 call. So on your little sheet, I've also put some notes about things to think about when you make the 911 call. It actually needs to be done thoughtfully and very well. So I kind of give you like points to kind of go through. So what's important is to say, I have an individual, not a homeless person. If you just say, I have a homeless person who's acting out and crazy, and I don't know, I'm freaked out or whatever, like they get a million of those calls. So when you make the call, you want to be thoughtful and kind of have the information up front, like you've already kind of assessed what's going on with the person. So you say, I have an individual who's trespassing on my property, first of all, holding a metal club, hitting cars, swinging at people, and screaming obscenities. And then most importantly, the key ingredient, and I have children here. Those are sort of the pieces you want to remember when you make the 911 call. They're also going to ask you quickly for a description. So you want to be ready with It's a female, Caucasian, around 40, and she has a red t-shirt. They're going to ask you that. You want to be ready to tell them exactly what the person is wearing. And very importantly, you want to have the medical or very specific, again, danger to self or other kind of details, like someone's not breathing, right? That's a 911 call. Or someone's putting themselves in danger. So they're half naked with no shoes on in the street. That's criteria for a psych hold. So those are important pieces of information when you make the 911 call. So I'm just going to pause there for a second and just kind of see what's coming up for you all. If you have any responses or questions or things that you're dealing with specifically. I'll also add that while we do the positive engagement, it's helpful to have a few service providers that you work closely with that you can either call to come and assist or give advice. Like, well, I have this woman, she says she's willing to see a doctor. Like, where could I send her right now? That can be very helpful too, to have a few point people that you can call. I've also listed some numbers for Department of Mental Health. If you see someone who's symptomatic, maybe not violent, but you see them, unclothed and very sickly, you can call the access number, which I have listed. 911 will also make an assessment, and they will bring in the MEU, the Medical Evaluation Unit team, to come make an assessment as well. So that's important to see if you can problem solve yourself, but also have service providers that you know can take your call and possibly assist. So yes, Laura.
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, Amy. Thank you.
Hi.
This is really very helpful. Thank you very much for this handout and for this conversation, for laying all this out. My question is about the resource guide. This is something that our church has tried to put together. And we were actually, I was trying to rack my brain. I think we were starting to put something together and then COVID hit. And then it was like, oh, the resource guide totally went on the back burner. So now trying to think back to, okay, maybe the resources have changed. I feel like things are changing a lot. Contact people might change frequently. Is there what's a good place to start with putting together a resource guide?
That's a great question. I would say one probably already exists for your area. So even Darcy, I'm sure the West Side Coalition has at least one to kind of work off of. And then I would say Department of Mental Health has faith liaisons. They will have that resource as well. So that might be a contact person. I can also help you, like for anyone on this call, you can contact me, email me at any time, and I can help you get to your first step. But having those one or two people who will have those contact people. So I would say Department of Mental Health. And then I know in our area, and I'm sure it's the same for you, you have an E6 team. Those were the county strategies. E6 are more outreach workers, and they're under the umbrella of the people concerned. So I know that's a West Side group, and they have outreach workers, and that is often a great point person because they're kind of hooked into a lot of different arenas. And if you find your person, that can be a great go-to person. I'm going to sort of jump to an example where I had a church contact me, kind of like we're doing, and saying like, hey, I need to kind of get resources going, or you're in an area where you're a little bit out of the kind of engagement zone. So your resources don't come as readily as maybe, 1 mile away. So this was a group who was struggling, and we found their E6 outreach team. And one of the things they did that I thought was really important is they connected with the outreach team and decided to schedule their engagement ministry around a time that was convenient for that outreach team. So the outreach team said, we're in your area Wednesday mornings. So they figured, oh, well, that's the time we should do Bible study and bagels. We'll line it up so that we do our part of offering spiritual care, community, but we're strategic about placing our engagement time when it's convenient for outreach workers to be there. And that's also helpful too, because you can often say to someone on a Tuesday afternoon, could you come back tomorrow morning for bagel, and we can meet with Kevin and he can help you get on track with your housing. I remember I had a group who, we'd always hear like, we just can't get outreach workers to come to our program. We can't get outreach workers. And we're like, oh, wow, that's too bad. And then finally one day I said, oh, well, when is your program? And she said, Friday at 5. I said, yeah, that's not probably an ideal time to set up a program. So again, you're not going to diminish what you're doing. You're going to do your part. Your faith piece is incredibly important in the spectrum of care. So you want to do that well. You're not just turning into social services, but you're doing your part. You're making the faith experience available, but you're also being strategic. Well, why not have it coordinate when outreach workers are available? And again, you want to even consider shaping it around their time frame. So back to you, Laura, the resource guide, having a few point people and then building it out based on what's available in your area and growing those relationships. And I would just add too, like seeing what your faith community can also give so that you're partnering with those outreach teams. Like maybe it's ministering to the outreach teams and making them lunch on certain days. Like for us, it's, a lot of groups do come to us for that bus ticket home, or, a submission for the shelter, or a variety of things. But be thinking about that when you create your ministry. How can you be caring for all these outreach teams?
So Amy, we have a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Rebecca, she shared a link for a resource. She put the link in the chat, but she also had the question of what happens after 911 shows up.
Great question. Yes. So for some of the resources that I've listed, like access, if someone's mental health symptomatic, you will need someone to be a point person to stay through waiting for the services to come. So whether it's the ambulance, or clinicians from Access who are going to make an assessment, someone has to stay through that time. So again, that's working with your team and seeing who will be that point person. It might be different on the weekend. It might be someone else during the weekday. But did you have other thoughts about that? Like was there more specific about what to do in waiting for the?
No, thank you. Good to see you all. It was mostly around, the situation that you described would have been a pretty high heat kind of interaction, especially if there are, all other people in the room and how they're doing. And so I think I haven't encountered that situation. And so I was like, okay. And then what happens? Like, because sometimes you're like, oh, I made the call. You're like, actually, the situation hasn't really totally de-escalated until, like you're saying, until the need is met, until the individual has moved to wherever they're going next. But even then, when is the need met? It's a great challenge. So I just wanted to hear kind of, okay, you called Access, but you're not actually you've moved the situation down a notch, but you still haven't completed that interaction. That's what I was wondering about. Yeah, thank you.
So great question. My hope in that situation that someone on your team is also going to address maybe congregants or people around who are getting concerned. So someone else will go and say, we've called 911, they're on the way, you know, let's kind of move over here. We've handled the situation. So that's a great question. And those are things to think through with your response team at your faith organization, like who will do what, who's going to make the 911 call. Some people are, it sounds silly, but even just with the 911 call, there are people who are going to be more capable at doing that or more comfortable, who are going to really memorize kind of what needs to be said exactly. And there are other people who are going to be more comfortable staying with your friend who's in distress, right? Like Jimmy, your deacon, really has a gift for that. He's the one who's going to keep talking to him about the Lakers and kind of engage. And then someone else is going to deal with the congregation. So kind of figuring out who on your team plays what role is important. Yeah. How are you feeling? Like, I'm wondering if you feel like we have the people to do this, we don't have the people to do this. I feel like my one person or two people who can do it, I'm worried that they're overtaxed. Do some of those concerns come up for you? I know it does for me. Like, we're very, very concerned about our custodians who are the first responders and kind of take this on. And I will say for myself, I also have learned, like one time we had someone in our congregation who became very symptomatic with mental health and was very difficult, throwing himself into traffic. And I was the point person. So I was the one making the call, coordinating with the VA. My point person said, contact the VA, that's where he should go. I also called my law enforcement person who was great. So called some of my resources, but we had this incident happen one week. He was put in jail. Then my police officer realized he shouldn't be in jail. He needs to be in the psych ward at the VA. Then they got him transferred. Then he was back out and we went through this. It was like a few weeks of doing this and I was responding by myself. I was doing this by myself. And then after a few weeks, I had dizziness. And I remember processing with someone and they're like, okay, first of all, you can't be doing this by yourself. And I had to realize that while I wasn't feeling threatened because I knew the person, the level of intensity of the situation was dramatic, was actually causing me distress. So I learned, like, okay, I have to develop some practices within myself that help me to stay calm when there's a very escalated situation. I have to also stay calm. I have to speak to my team members calmly, start praying. Prayer for us is key. We pray constantly. Pray over the space, we pray over the situation. We're just holding everything in prayer. But I had to learn because I wasn't mindful of caring for myself, doing this kind of work.
So Amy, we have another question in the chat for you.
Mm-hmm.
How do you navigate different approaches to homeless friends between the church and a preschool that rents space at the church?
Mm-hmm. We have been through that. I know you've all been through that. Kind of creating things at church that can create a little bit of a boundary for the preschool space. I know we're not a big fan of fences, but sometimes you can create like a cute fence with animals on it that kind of is there at certain times of the day, but sort of brings some protection to the space. We worked with our city council office on certain signs that are outside the school so that like limited parking and other things, so that you can leverage that if you might have an individual who's present, who's maybe just even lying on the sidewalk, and you might, again, super friendly, excited to meet you, but then, hey, Jimmy, this area is limited due to having a school here. So can we ask you to, go down to the bench, a block away, or that kind of thing. So trying to set up apparatus, so to speak, that helps you leverage less people in the vicinity of your preschool. And as I said too, hopefully your team can de-escalate and move someone off, again, because it's going to be quicker and more reliable sometimes than just waiting on 911, because they often don't come, and it's not always warranted. But the 911 call, you want to make sure you mention you have children there, because that will make it a higher priority. So I want to share a little bit, just before we're kind of closing up here really quickly, just some thoughts too around the components of your outreach program, ministry, whatever that looks like. We want to be mindful of the elements that have long-lasting effect on our friends, particularly ongoing, authentic friendship and inclusion is a key component. And so conversation that comes up around how faith organizations are creating or doing outreach, just encouraging us to think a little bit more, like we shared a little bit today, strategically. We often have a tendency to be friendly and hand out an item like food or clothing. And that's kind of maybe the limit to some degree. Maybe you have a referral to a service provider, but I wanted to highlight that what we're learning and what we're seeing is that faith groups that develop outreach that has long-lasting friendship and also increases the resources seems to be a win-win. So I just made a note in our presbytery, we have a congregation called St. Mark's in Lomita, and there was a group of women who really decided to be devoted to a certain tent encampment, and they built friendships with the friends there. It wasn't just handing out food, it was actually really building a friendship and a community group, and also kind of looking into resources that they could pursue, like other housing options, or picking up the phone to see if they could make an appointment, or being comfortable enough to take them to the DMV for their ID. And those friends in that tent encampment got housed, and that community group still meets together. So again, social capital, having friendship, that is a key component to people's sense of worth and thriving, having community. So I just also want to encourage us to think about that, because those are also places where you increase your support system. So when you have to, de-escalate or problem solve or engage, you're maximizing your resources and really giving people the key things that they need. So I just add that in this kind of spectrum of conversation about how to engage with our friends experiencing homelessness in ways that are compassionate, but also effective. I don't know if anyone has any questions about that.
I want to add to that. You're giving so much information, is really helpful. What you just described about the community and helping them get to their needs. There's a lot of people in our congregation who are really close to homeless, and it takes a lot of They're trying hard not to be and not to show it, but if we're in relationship enough to know it, to be bringing them along, and they end up being the ones who are actually closer to the street to be ministering to the others. It creates a bigger chain.
Mhm.
I was wondering if you could comment a little bit about depression. We visit people in tents that are there every week, just sitting there. And I just want to see what your reaction is to that.
So my reaction is hopefully you, Craig, or some others feel like you have a real friendship. Maybe you're sharing about what's going on with you. We don't treat people like a project. We don't just kind of go over and say, hey, what do you need? But really just, how are you? And find out what that person's interests are. Maybe invite them for a walk around the block together. Like, do you want to walk to 7-Eleven together? Again, if you feel safe alone, or if you don't, bring a friend, a partner, but start to engage that person and help them to walk around the block. Maybe they come in and participate in playing a game. Maybe you even play a game with them, like cards or something. So a lot of the work that we do is to try to help people use their cognitive skills and to feel engaged and also fun, literally fun. Like we bring in our people who are possibly going to be conserved, they have grave disabilities. And you know what we do? We play charades. We play charades, and you would be shocked that someone who's so unwell, once they see people up and playing charades, they're so excited to get up and do their movie. I know you're like, no, that doesn't happen. They're not going to want to engage, but they do. So when people around them are doing something joyful, that's not so serious, like playing a card game or just playing a game or taking a walk or go getting Starbucks together, that feels like real life. And those are just little experiences which trigger for them like, hey, I can start to feel normal. So I don't know if that's helpful, but those are the things I think about when people are what we call not feeling well. If you see that someone has mental health symptoms and they're suffering, we often, just to make it feel comfortable, say like, oh, are you not feeling well today? And they feel comfortable with that phrase. Yeah, I'm not feeling well today. I'm hearing voices. Oh, like that must feel awful. I'm so sorry. And can I pray for you? What's your favorite drink at Starbucks? Would you feel like walking to do that? So those are some ways that help them kind of move forward a little bit. And then of course, hopefully with your resource guide, or you already have built a rapport with your E6 team or your DMH team, you can let them know that you have this individual. And what's super helpful for the outreach team is that like Craig is Jimmy's best friend, and it really helps to move things forward. It helps for you to say, hey, I really trust this outreach worker. We could go together to get your ID, or I know Thursday's overwhelming for you. You're going to get your ID. Maybe I could bring you your favorite breakfast that day, or just be an encouragement. But your outreach team is going to value that friendship that you have with your friend on the street.
Thanks. Great ideas. Thank you.
I just wanted to add that in the chat, I put a link to a Google Sheet that has resources on the west side, because resource guides just, they change as soon as you print them. It's like programs are always changing. We decided to build one in Google Sheets, which was great until the pandemic hit and all the programs ended up being on again, off again. So it's one of the things that we're working on updating, but one of the things that I appreciate very, very much about what Amie is saying is that I don't know of many faith-based organizations that have resources such as housing, medical care, mental health, all of those things. And so our best position is to partner with the agencies. And, it's a lot of times there'll be meal programs. Those are ideal times to bring in outreach teams. And that way you've got somebody that is connecting them to the services that really will make a difference. And that, we need the spiritual side of things, but we also need that, somebody that can help them get their documents in order, somebody that can get them, ready to go into housing or employment services or whatever it is. And, if we work together, we are so much better than if we try to do it alone. So that's my only advice, in this. And I appreciate that so much about what Amie has, been sharing with us. Amie, any final words?
Try to be thoughtful and strategic about your response. I think we just have patterns. Our faith groups have had patterns that we go to, and it's time to rethink about those patterns, and to continue to discuss it and learn from one another, and try new things. Like we've mentioned, to be deep in your faith piece. Like I encourage people, go deep in the faith. You want to do that well, and also really expand your strategy on the way that you're going to problem solve and do this well. One of the, unfortunate things is sometimes every group, you mean well by just handing out food. And there's nothing bad inherently with that, but if there aren't services connected, or we're not building real friendships and everybody's handing out food, we're not creating a balanced ecosystem. And sometimes we're learning that our friends can just stay stagnant on the street. They're not motivated to move or to really flourish. It's not even just about saying, hey, just move into an apartment and don't be a burden anymore to society. It's actually like, how are you, Jimmy, going to flourish? Like, you like to do carpentry. You want to have a safe place for your child. It's creating strategy that really helps our friends to flourish spiritually, physically, in every area, so that they have holistic care. So my encouragement is, let's be doing our work more thoughtfully.
Amie, sorry, before you sign off, could you possibly put your email in the chat if people need to contact you? Great, thank you.
Well, I have recorded this. And so, oh, we've got somebody just coming in right now. I don't see the record. Oh yeah, it is going. Anyway, so I will make the recording available to you. I will also, if you got the link, then I have your email, and I will send a follow-up of the document that Amie was working off of, the de-escalation, and some of the things in the chat, some of the chat resources. I will make all of those things, and then we've got the recordings for that. I guess I could probably put that on everybody in case you want it, your email. So I just appreciate you so much, Amie, for taking your time, sharing your heart, and, just having a very real approach backed up by your own experiences, that, there are so many good things that are happening in your guys' area, and we all want to work together. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks to all of you, and blessings on all of your work. God is with us.
That is so true. Okay, I'm